can find the character creator stuff there. And if you wanted to take a look at the webinar outline, just go over here to webinar. And this is the one we're doing right now. So just basic Headshot 2.0 stuff. I've released a couple of tutorials over the last few weeks on Headshot 2.0. Some really cool stuff. You can basically now take your own head meshes and apply them to your character creator characters, which is awesome. And you can just animate them with a full facial animation, full body animation in iClone, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Yeah, so this is the outline right here. Don't need to explain too much about this to you guys. A couple of things I want to promote before we get started on the live demo. I'm going to start with the headshot and the live demo in just a moment here. In our content store, we have something that has a promotion that has 2 days left here. If you purchase up to $249 in the content store, you get a free copy of Sony Vegas video editor for free. This is a perpetual license, so it's forever. It's not a monthly license. It's a perpetual license, which is awesome. So if you're in the content business, you want to get some content, now's the time to do it before August 31st, because under $250 or over $249 will get you that free copy of Sony Vegas, which is awesome. Really good deal there. And it's for good, it's for life, perpetual license. That's what it means. All right. Aside from that, we have the marketplace.reallusion.com. If you're into hair, I think most people are always looking for more hair stuff. We'll talk about applying hair to your character in just a moment here, actually. We have a special on the marketplace, 20% off your first hair, 30% off the second hair. So I'll pick up a couple of hairstyles right here. You can check it out. And I will throw this, oops, let's just go back here. There we go. I'll throw this in the chat window for you guys so you can have it as a link. Let me just send this to everyone. All right, so that's the marketplace promotion. And the content store, you just go to the content store, basically. I don't need to put the link in the chat window for you guys. But again, from your Reallusion courses page, this is your hub for basically all the learning stuff in Reallusion, whether it be iClone, character creator, cartoon animator, actor core, etc. You can find all this stuff here. Let's go to home and choose your application right here. Okay, I think that's really all the promotional stuff I have to go through. So thanks for sticking with me through all the marketing lingo here. We're going to go ahead and get our live demo started. All right, so here we are in Character Creator. We're going to basically go through 3 different scenarios here. The first scenario is going to be just your typical legacy workflow where we take an image and apply that image and wrap it onto a 3D head. And then we're going to animate that really quickly using live face. If you guys have questions about facial animation, you feel free to ask me more about it. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly since we have other webinars that deal with facial animation, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So if I go through that too fast, make sure you put the questions in the Q&A and I can answer those later on. The second scenario, we're going to take a mesh, a regular kind of humanoid mesh. It's a pretty easy fix. And we're going to do some SkinGen stuff with that, kind of applying extra additional layers and baking the SkinGen layers onto your character's diffuse and normal maps, which is going to look really cool in the end. And then the third one, we're going to have sort of a non-human type character. This is going to be like a ogre type orc. I guess it's a troll, technically, a troll character with unconventional ears. And I'm going to show you how you can kind of adapt that to the Headshot 2.0 workflow and apply that to a body and customize the body and everything like that. Okay, so let's get started first of all with the legacy workflow. So Headshot 2.0, if you have it, it's going to be here under your modify panel, or you can go up here, Headshot 2.0, and just enable it like that. All right, so you're going to have 2 options at the top here. And again, if you need an introduction, a very basic introduction to this, check out the Getting Started tutorial in the courses page. I'll show you where that is in just a moment here. But I'm not going to go through the very, very basics here. I'm going to kind of just work through, try and do it fast because we have 3 scenarios to get through here in addition to the animation. So yeah, if I go through anything too fast, I can send you links to all the tutorials later on. Okay, image is our first workflow. So image, we're going to do mesh a little bit later, but image, there's a couple of options here, auto and pro. So auto is for sort of like NPC background characters. It's not going to be detailed. Notice that it says 1K texture here. If you want a close up of a character's face, it's not going to be sufficient for that. It's not going to look good. But these are great for background characters, low resource. You can throw a million of them in your scene and it won't really lag things down too much. Let's go over here to Pro. So this is the one we're going to be working with right now. It's going to give us a 4K texture, which ironically I will replace, and there's image matching and all this other stuff. You know, we can talk about it as we go on through it. Let's go ahead and load up an image. Or you can just load up an image this way, or you can actually just go ahead and click and drag, or you can double click here and load an image that way. A few different ways you can do it. You can see I have a number of different faces here. I'm going to use this one right here. Generally what you want: front facing image, neutral expression, and even lighting on the face. Those are the three most important things. You should be aware of that if you have any experience with headshot 1.0. Right, so this is our female character's face. We're going to give her a female body type and skin type here. You can automatically apply a skin type. I'm going to just choose no mask right now. This is going to be, it's just going to basically give us a really rough image that's kind of projected onto a 3D head. Okay, it's not a baby, so we don't need to select that. And we're just going to go ahead and generate this. So this is going to take that image, like I said, wrap it on a 3D head, and we're going to just fix this up a little bit with some editing. This normally doesn't take too long. It just has to basically create that character and apply some, you know, basic general maps to it. You can see the character appears right there. This is our female standard CC4 plus character. And what it's going to do now is it's going to generate the different facial mesh. And again, if you only have one single front-facing image, it's difficult to get, you know, the features from the side. So if I knew what that girl looked like from the side, because, you know, maybe the nose can be a little bit deceiving, right? The nose can be really big, but from the front it looks small. So that's kind of one of the limitations of just doing this image workflow. You can only see the character from the front or the person from the front. Right now, there's no option to apply a side image, so just be aware of that. All the stuff on the side, basically from 90 degrees is to the back, is all going to be automatically generated by a character creator headshot here. Got some tea here. All right, so it's going to whip up our character's face in just a moment here. All right, there we go. So you see it slightly changes the skin tone, which adapts to the color of the face. So that's cool. You can press the J hotkey with your character selected. The J hotkey will zoom in right on the face there. Okay, so you can see the result right off the bat is not too terrible. It's actually not too bad. It looks like the character, right? Or it looks like the image. There's of course some tweaks we can make. We're going to get rid of the hair and apply some artificial hair, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. Okay, but the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to just make sure all the proportions are correct on the face. There's some tweaking we can do on the face, particularly on the mouth. And what I'm going to do first, to do your shape adjustment and shape refinement, go down here to shape adjustment, activate sculpt morph. That's going to bring up these areas on the face, these gizmos that you can use to kind of move things around. I'm going to just deselect that because I don't like to show these. It just looks annoying for me. I mean, you can adjust the darkness and whatever of it. I'm going to just deselect that, show control areas. And I'm also going to activate image matching tools. So this basically overlays an image, the original image we used, on top of the actual character's face, the 3D image or the 3D model character's face. So let's go ahead and open up the image matching tools here. And if I zoom in, we're going to focus on the mouth here, like I mentioned. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in right here. Now there's a really a big issue here. If I take the opacity of my image down and I go slowly into the model right here. So this is going to be the image. This is going to be the model. So the image right here, the model right here. It looks fairly close, but of course, there's one major adjustment you can see. If you pay close attention, we're going to go over here to mouth. Right along the edges here, you'll notice that the crack of the lips is a little bit on the image, is a little bit below where our actual model of separation of the model's lips are. So the models are right up here a little bit, and the image is a little bit further down. So what we need to do is we need to kind of eyeball it. I'm going to use symmetrical in this case, since the mouth is fairly symmetrical over here. And I'm going to click and drag this down right here. And when I do that, you'll notice that the separation of the lips goes down a bit. And then if I increase my opacity, you can see that right here, and that's where we want the lip separation to be. So it's fairly accurate to the actual characters, the gap, I guess, between the upper and middle lips. And that's what you want to do first. So I'm going to basically move that down a little bit. And once you've done that, then you need to reproject photo. Okay, so click on reproject photo. It's going to rebake the textures and reapply them to the mouth. And then when we do that, you'll notice that the lips are going to be a little bit further up. Okay, and that's going to be the more accurate placement that we want. You can see here the disparity, about an inch between that area where my cursor is right there. But when we rebake the texture here, it's going to get rid of that. And now I'm not going to spend too much time on this part, since there's some, small details you can get into, like the eyes and everything like that. I'm going to try and focus more on the new features, Headshot 2.0 features. Okay, so now you can see if we increase or decrease the opacity, basically the side of the lips there, it's even. So there's no disparity between the positioning of it. You can see here, there's slight disparity between like the chin area here around the chin. Of course, we can fix that by just going over here to the contours on the face, increase the opacity. You can see the actual model image is a little bit further out. So we can take that part of the character's face and move it out slightly like that. And again, I'm not going to worry too much about that stuff. We can focus on the eyes. Now, this character's eyes are not symmetrical, so we're going to deselect symmetrical here. Click on the eyes in the shape adjustment section. And again, sorry if I'm going a little bit fast here, but we have a lot of other stuff to get through, and you can always ask questions in the Q&A. Okay, so do the same thing with the opacity. You can see the positioning of the model's eyes here in the image is a little bit different than what we have in our model. So right here, I basically go ahead and I would take, this part of the eyes in the model, and I'd bring them down slightly like this. The bottom part of the eyes is a little bit further out. So take this section here and move it further down. This section here can maybe move a little bit further out. And basically, you're just kind of adjusting the position of the eye morphs. You can always refine this later on as well, so just be aware of that. I'll show you how to do that later on. I just want to get the relative position correct. You can also take the eyeball and move it down slightly. Okay, so that's a little bit better. And I'm just going to go ahead with that. Again, you can spend all day tweaking all these little things, but in the end, I just kind of want to show you the workflow. So again, here, what we'll do is we'll take this part of the eye, bring it a little down further like this. And this part of the eye can go in a little bit, just slightly, and move down like that. Again, I'm just super eyeballing this stuff. It's not going to be as accurate as, if I had more time, but there you go, take that part down. And you can just tweak all this stuff as much as you want. But I think that's going to be okay for me. This eyeball can maybe go a little bit to the center again. All right, there you go. All right, I'm going to work with that. Since this model it's fairly decent, the proportions are pretty much okay. We can't really see much about the ears. Of course, the ears can be further out, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead, and with those tweaks that I've done, the nose is going to remain the same. The eyes, slightly different around the eyes, but again, just make sure that you have everything relatively similar. And then we can deactivate this, and this is the face we're going to work with. Now, okay, so this is a kind of a decision that's up to you, really. You can see on the side here, obviously, it's basically stretching the side face texture here. And if we go down here to the texture adjustment section, there's a number of different skin type presets we can use here. For a woman, we would use probably clean, soft. And if you want to mask out the hair right here, what you would do is you would go to the skin settings here. You would go to scalp, scalp, down here to mask and face mask. You would just choose this to like hair left parting, something like this, okay? And you can see when we do that, look at the blend mask here for the opacity. That's going to basically mask out most of her hair right here. So her hair is parted on the left, and it's going to mask out most of this stuff. Hers is pretty far down though, so you would actually have to do some additional adjustment in Photoshop. But I'm not going to bother with all that stuff right here. And to be honest, I'm just going to go ahead and update skin texture just to show you what this would be like. Okay, There's also other masks you can use as well for the eyelids, especially when the eyelashes come down. You can just select update skin texture. I'll just show you this one really fast. It's not going to matter in the end because we're going to totally replace the skin texture. All right, so there you go. It gets rid of most of it, but again, you would have to go into Photoshop and you would have to remove this little section here. And to do that, all you would do is click on your photo diffuse map right here, and you would launch it in Photoshop. Okay, so just launch in Photoshop. Now I'm not going to actually do this, but I'm just going to show you what you would do if you wanted to keep the original texture. So this is, for those of you familiar with Headshot, this is a pretty familiar workflow, and it's not going to be too difficult, but we need to bake it before we do that. Anyways, it's not really important, but basically it should bring a different texture map right here. And what you would do is you would just launch that. Once you baked it, once you saved it, you just basically launch into Photoshop again there, and that would fix it for you. Okay, so just you would have to remove like basically, whoops, what did I do? Clone stamp something here. You know, just use a process like this. We have tutorials on this as well. Clone stamp, hold Alt and click here, and then you know, make your brush size a bit bigger, something like this. So, you know, and again, this is just super fast, crappy editing that I'm doing here. You would do something like this, and then you would save that back into just go ahead and save it, and it would automatically update in Character Creator. Okay, I'm going to close Photoshop right now. So, all right, okay. So like I mentioned again, we're not going to worry about the original skin texture. We're going to totally replace it and try to in about 10 minutes here. All right. So I'm going to go to content here, and this is how you can basically just kind of totally replace the skin. And sometimes I do recommend doing this because although this auto-generated skin is pretty good, it's not bad, right? It would take some Photoshop editing to get it perfect. But the faster way of doing it is just using one of our skin presets. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here to skin, and whoops, with the skin selected, we have the, I'm just going to use a 4K skin. Now, everyone's going to have this skin here. This is the Camilla skin. So there's a CC4 Camilla skin right here. I'm just going to apply this one to my character. So I'm going to ignore, we're going to just basically we're going to apply the head, diffuse, and normal textures. So it's going to replace the diffuse and normal textures. If you wanted to keep them, I'll show you that in a little bit. You would just select either one of those, ignore. But for now, we're totally going to replace them. So we won't select that right now. And it's going to apply Camilla's. All right. So now it looks, you know, the skin tone is fairly different. She lost her eyebrows. She has no makeup on. So it's, you know, wake up in the morning, this is what you're going to look like with no makeup on sometimes. And so we're just going to basically put this side by side with the actual image here. And I'm going to go into working on it. Oh, there we go. I'm going to just put this image side by side so we can get a better look at it. All righty. There we go. Oh, come on. All right, let's just. All right, it's not doing it automatically. Oh man, okay, whatever. All right, we'll just do it this way. I'm going to move the zoom panel over here. All right, and let's get moving on this. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to apply. There's a couple things you can do here. Initially, you can go into modify, and with the material selected up here, go to your skin head. So you can see it's a digital human head, which allows us a lot more freedom to change the color and everything. Go down here to skin color, activate skin color. There's a blend map. You can activate blend map and color adjustment. Okay. Wow, it goes like really yellow. All right. Now we can just take that blend strength down. We don't really need the blend at this point, so we can take it pretty far down. We can also select auto color, or we can choose this swatch right here, this color swatch, and open it up and pick a screen color and pick, you know, something over here on the actual character. So something a little darker to blend it into would be nice. Okay. And then we can go okay. And then we can go down here to our color adjustment, select that, pick a screen color, and pick something closer to the character. Something, you know, a little bit more. Again, it's going to be really picky here suddenly, but Just try and get to a more natural color and then press OK. So that gives you a lot of reference here. And you can also increase the blend strength right here. So that makes it a bit more natural looking as well. And then down here, the skin presets, red, yellow. Again, I'm going to try and get within 2 seconds here, or a couple seconds, I'm going to try and get as close as I can. She doesn't have much blackness on her face there, but there you go. Okay, that's going to be a pretty good base for me because we're going to put foundation and makeup on here in just a moment here. Now, what you can do is just go ahead and bake skin color to diffuse map, but you can also just go to makeup right away directly. And under here, there's makeup, full makeup. I'm going to go to foundation. There's one called Cute, I think worked pretty well when I was testing this out. Cute skin preset. Okay, so this is just a foundation preset, and it's going to ask us to bake the color adjustments we just made. So we'll just bake that, and then it's going to load up SkinGen. SkinGen, of course, is the plugin that allows us like a lot of super easy and quick customization options here. And I'm going to try and get through this in the next 5 minutes or so. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of stuff to get through in this one. And actually, this workflow generally is the longest, to be honest with you. The other workflows are pretty fast. So here you can see it. If we go into modify now, we go into the SkinGen or the appearance tab up here. There's the blush. The blush for me is way too strong, so I'm going to decrease that blush right here. The contour, there's foundation. You can increase the foundation amount. So again, there's so much layers of makeup and stuff you can put on. I'm just going to go ahead with that, and I'm going to go back into content. Now we can go to eye makeup here, and in eye makeup, I think there was one called Enchanting. Yeah. So again, if you have the content pack called Makeup and SFX, which I highly recommend, we're going to talk more about this later. Basically, you get a great deal with other stuff right now if you purchase that, the 4-in-1 SkinGen it's called. But I'll just go ahead and use this eyeshadow eye makeup here, this Enchanting preset. Now, it's not going to look exactly like the female character, but we can make some really quick adjustments here by going into modify, going down here to the eyeshadow. Okay, in the SkinGen window, there's a whole bunch of presets we can use here. Now, the base, of course, we can increase or decrease the opacity of the eyeshadows down here. So this is the base on the top of the eye there, you can see. We can decrease or increase the base color right here as well. There's different areas that you can increase or decrease. I think, again, these are all different sections here. There's different masks. The outer V, these are all just different areas of the eye that are kind of adjusted here. So this one here, we don't want this one very much. We can take the opacity down on that one. And again, I'm going really fast through this, but bear with me here. This is for the bottom part of the eye. You can see there, we want to increase that. This one here, brightness. So this is that area right there. We can just make it not as bright, a little bit less opacity. Since the makeup on the characters, the actual face there is not super strong. So we'll take it down to a reasonable amount. And then this one is important. This is the center, kind of where the, I think they're called lacrimal glands or whatever are. You can increase the brightness there. You can see if we increase the brightness or darkness right there, it's right there in the middle. So this one, we want to make it super white. Okay. And because right here, she has that really kind of area that's really focused or really noticeable. So we can increase the opacity on that. And we can also increase the range, expansion, blur it a certain amount, whatever you want. I'll just try and make it reasonably similar. There we go. Okay, so that's the eyeshadow makeup. Then I'll go to content, and I'm going to go to eyelashes as well. We're going to give her some longer, thicker eyelashes, especially towards the outside. So there's one here. There's a whole bunch of different ones. Long tail thick. We'll just use this one. This is fine. And just add it. Okay. You can see that I'll add longer lashes along the outside there. Looks more similar now. Okay. So the eyes we're doing not bad. Okay. I think we're okay with the makeup, with the basic makeup now. On top of that, we can use eyebrows. We can use eyebrow makeup here, or we can actually go and add eyebrows onto the character. So separate eyebrows. These eyebrows, if we add them here, these are going to be just basically part of the texture. Okay. Now under hair, you also have a section for eyebrows. If you want a separate mesh, like a separate eyebrow mesh that you can kind of mold and define, you can go under hair here, and then in hair group, you'll find eyebrows somewhere down here. And there's a number of different eyebrow presets. I'm just going to go ahead and use this, female angled. We can throw in a couple of different ones. And once we do this, I believe it's going to bake our texture. Yeah, so it's going to end our SkinGen session. So we don't need any more SkinGen right now. So I'll just go ahead and bake that. So it's going to bake it, and it's going to apply the eyebrow there. All right, so it has to bake the arms and the legs and the torso and everything like that. And then I'm just going to throw this one on. You can see it's a lot thicker than this one. Now we can edit the mesh and narrow those down, scale those down if we want. We can also just find one that's like a bit, thinner, like this one. Maybe this one's a bit more accurate. Obviously that section there around the eyebrows or around the nose is not as, there's a little bit of messiness around there. Maybe this female flat one is better. Again, you can use whatever presets you want. This female trimmed one right here. That one's probably, one of the more accurate ones. Again, you can modify the morphs of this later, which I'll show you in just a moment. I think I'll just go with this female flat one. Okay. More like Jennifer Connelly type eyebrows, which are really awesome. Okay. Anyways, we'll work with that. And I'm just going to throw some hair on her as well. So there's a hair style that I found that is pretty accurate for this character. Side part. Okay, so now she's looking more like, on the left there. It's fairly, I mean, we just whipped that up in like 5 minutes or so. So it's not too bad. Of course, you can do more modifications to it, but I'm going to work with this. Now we'll just maximize character creator right now. Go in here, and if I want to, go to modify, and there's the morphs up here. Okay, so the morphs, particularly if you have headshot 2.0, it'll come with the headshot specific morphs. So you'll find those right here, headshot, and you can just type in like brow on the search under headshot, and there'll be like brow height. You can decrease the brow height. I believe her eyebrows were a little bit lower down. And then I think there's like brow angle as well. Yeah, so you can just kind of make the angles a little bit like more like that. And then again, if you want to, you can go into morphs here and edit the mesh with the eyebrows selected. Of course, you don't want the character's face selected. You want to go into scene and select the specific eyebrows called female flat here, and then go into modify and edit mesh. There we go. Now you can, of course, change the opacity on the eyebrows just to make them invisible, or you can just, let's go to faces here. Select the faces here, maybe soft selection, and use a W hotkey to move them further down, E to rotate them. Okay, so we just want the meshes to kind of be closer in. And when we do that, you can see it's slightly more like this. I didn't select actually those parts right there, but that's what you would do to adjust the mesh separately. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because we have other things to get to, but notice I just changed the kind of position of this one to be a little lower. If I Control Z and undo that, you can see it goes back up to there. All right. But that's very briefly what you would do. Of course, you would go into a lot more detail than that. All right. But we have our character here. We can throw some clothes on her if we want. We're not going to worry too much about her clothes because I'm just going to be basically loading up iClone, and I'm going to throw her into iClone for facial animation. But while we're animating her face, we're going to be starting on our second character in Character Creator, which is the humanoid type facial mesh that we're going to import on and apply to a different type of character in Character Creator. So once iClone loads up, I'm going to just throw her into iClone, throw her into a scene, and just kind of whip out a preset scene for the lighting and everything like that. Just take a moment, and then we'll do some facial animation with motion capture using my trusty old iPhone here. So I still have an iPhone 10 that I've been using for almost a decade, it seems. Let's close this down. Let's go to Character Creator. And to bring your character into iClone, pretty simple. Just go ahead and make sure the character is selected, not the eyebrows, and go over here to send to iClone, right? Boom, that's going to throw the character into iClone. And once we have that, then we can do some good old facial animation. There you go. So progressive texture loading allows the character to come in a bit faster. Notice that the lighting kind of sucks compared to character creator. I think her hair is a little bit mispositioned there as well. If I just go into here and select her hair, maybe just move this slightly forward, I believe. There we go. All right. Yeah, that kind of hair thing was bothering me. All right, looks good. Okay, so the easiest way to get a good looking scene in iClone, just go to content, go up here to your stage, and then there's a bunch of different presets here. Lightroom is a preset that you can, I think, purchase from the content store for pretty cheap. There's also a number of different presets included in iClone. So, you know, if I just do something like authority, for example, boom, okay. So it has a number of different light presets, and now it looks a lot better. It doesn't look like all washed out and stupid. Okay, so now it looks pretty good. Okay, we got reflection on the hair, etc. There's some other stuff going on, but that's pretty good. All right, we'll just work with that. We're going to leave her for now, and we're going to go back into character creator, and I'm going to start up my next character here. So we're just we don't need to save this. Now, my next character is going to have, there's one thing you can do in character creator headshot 2 is you can actually import in a body. Okay, but your body has to be a CC3 plus character. So this is where the pack that I'm going to mention here comes in really handy. I think we're good time right now. Let's go over here to twirl up all the makeup stuff and everything. Under actor, if you go to pack, there's an actor pack called the Anatomy, Human Anatomy. Let's just type in anatomy. There we go. Okay, Human Anatomy. So this pack originally was $700 by itself. It includes a number of different preset characters. If you go into it, you can see here that there's a whole number of different preset characters that you can use. They all have their own unique textures, a number of different teeth presets, eye presets, and everything like that. But if you right now, if you purchase SkinGen 4-in-1, I think it's called, or SkinGen 3-in-1, you get that for like $300, and it includes a whole bunch of other stuff like tattoos, facial presets, and it also includes all of this. So you're paying less than half, and you get this included. So I can always show you guys the website later for that, but you can search on the content store. I think it's called SkinGen 3-in-1. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to apply a character type to my screen here. Let's go ahead and we can apply this male old. All right. We don't need to save this. So this is going to apply a character model to our scene. And this guy looks pretty cool. Again, he has his own unique skin presets and everything. He's just totally naked. So, you know, maybe we don't all want to see this, but there we go. This is what he looks like. Pretty cool, like really detailed. And again, this is part of the anatomy set. You can customize all this stuff. It's a really good looking character right off the bat though. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in another character head. So this is a character from Dishonored that I have available. Now for this one, I have a high poly and a low poly mesh. Now we have tutorials that talk about how to, you know, increase or decrease the poly count of your head model. The original head model is from ZBrush. I don't have ZBrush installed on this computer. You can see there's a high poly right here, 282 megabytes or 89 megabytes. And the low poly one is 1,121. If I bring these both in, you'll see the difference of it. We can just go ahead and do that right now, actually. Let's just bring in them both. High poly, we'll just bring it in as a prop. So whenever you bring them in, just bring them in as props, first of all. Okay, so that's the high poly. FBX is going to take a little bit longer to bring in. And I'll compare the topology. I always say topography, but it's topology of these two characters. The one is very, very much reduced. I think it's subdivided 4 or 5 times. And of course, that stuff can be done in Blender. This particular character was done in ZBrush, and it might actually take a long while to bring in the FBX. Hopefully not too long, because I don't want to start animating the character yet. The eventual workflow I'm going to go through with this is, oh, there we go. We bring in the low poly head, and you'll see the difference, how fast the low poly head comes in. We bring in the low poly head, but we bake the normal and diffuse maps from the high poly head. All right, so look at this. Wow. Let's make our character invisible at this moment here, so we can focus on the heads. So with this one, if we go into wireframe mode, whoops, that's the old dude. Let's make sure we select the right model here. Go into wireframe. You can see here selected tries. So this is 779, 7,793 tries. Okay, so that's really detailed. You can see if we zoom in. Wow. Okay, it's super high detailed. This is the kind of mesh that you have in ZBrush. Not really useful for real-time gaming sort of situations, but that's basically it right there. Now we can just delete that for now. I'm not going to use that. Get out of here, you. And we're going to bring in our low poly, right? Just throw the low poly and import it as a prop. Boom. Okay, see how much faster that pops in. So we didn't have to wait like 2 minutes for it to come in. And if we go into wireframe mode, there you go. A lot simpler. Okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to bake those texture maps from the high poly version and apply it to our low poly version. And it'll look pretty good in the end. So let's just change this back to, whoops, normal. All right. Now, I mean, this model has diffuse and normal maps, but the diffuse is basically just pretty much white. You'll see it in just a moment. It's going to look almost like it has no color at all, which is kind of silly. But anyways, we'll see a little bit later. So this is the one I'm going to use. I'm going to bring my male character visible again. We're going to apply this head mesh to this body right here, and we're going to kind of replace all the textures and everything like that. So let's go ahead and start with the head mesh here. Now, in this case, with Headshot version 2, we're going to go up to the top, and we're going to use mesh. Okay, so we're using mesh for the next 2 scenarios here. And with the model selected, just go ahead and select Start Head Generation. Okay. Now there's tutorials on this, like I mentioned, in the Reillusion courses page. The workflow is not too difficult for this character since it's a humanoid face. It's fairly easy to detect all the alignment points here. Excuse me. So you can see there's a bunch of red dots here. Like, what do they all mean? Well, these are just basically markers that mark where your where the basic positions of certain features are on the source mesh. And you have to kind of harmonize this with the mesh that's going to be generated by Headshot 2. So Headshot 2 is going to use this mesh as a source, and it's going to create a version of that head that can be animated with character creator or iClone, full facial animation capabilities and all that stuff. All right. So right here, this is a pretty easy one with the models side by side. You can just go up to auto detection. All right. It's fairly simple. Now you can see when we select auto detection, if we zoom in, you can see that, it's pretty accurate. 1, 2, 3, the models are along the eyebrow right there. Just make sure they're not too far off. I'm not going to worry too much about the accuracy on this, but you can see 4, 5, 6. Again, 3 markers along the eyebrows. This 6 seems a little bit far back, so I'm going to take that marker, click and drag it closer. Okay, now the eyes are very important here. What you want to do is zoom in on the eyes really close, and you want to take the 7 and move it right to the corner outer edge of the eye there, and make sure that 8 and 10 are on the cusps of the eyelid. Okay, right here, and pretty much universally are parallel to each other or at the same vertical y-axis position. Okay, and 9 will be like right there at the very fold, at the very edge of the eye there. All right, so it looks similar to that. Okay, make sure those are consistent. You can see his head is not symmetrical, or the eyebrow is not symmetrical here. It's sort of a wave right here, so that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. Again, just do the same thing for the eyes. They're very important to make sure the eyes are accurately placed, because when you do the facial animation, especially blinking and stuff later on, you want to make sure that these are as accurate as possible, because it's annoying if it doesn't place them properly. It's really annoying to actually get the placement properly later on. So 16 on the top of the nose is, on the tip of the nose is fine. 19 here. This is at basically the fold at the bottom of the nose. So where the nose meets the, whatever you call that, part under the nose, lalilum or something. You can tell I'm not a doctor or whatever. And the 18 has to be placed at the very edge of the nostril here. So right over here. All right, that looks good. Again, fairly consistent. 17 over here needs to be the same. If we don't place that on the edge of the nostril, it'll basically misposition the nostril. So that's very important. And that's really annoying to fix if you don't place them properly. So make sure you place them properly right away. And then 20 has to go at the very edges of the lips right there. 23 at the base of the lips, 21 right here. Okay. There's 24, which is at the very base of the chin right here. We can move that up a little bit slightly. And for this one, I'm also going to add a point here on the bottom of the chin. So now we have all 24 points, initial points positioned properly. And we can just click and add our own. So if I click here, you can click on either side. So I'm going to click here and then click about there. Okay. Again, you're just using these points as references. It's very important to do the ears. So I'm going to, if you press the A, S, D, F hotkeys and G, it'll give you basically these views here. So A, S, D, F, and then G as the upper one. So let's start with A. And for the ears, I normally place 6 points on the ears. So I just do this basically 1, 2, 3 to the top, and then 4, 5, and then 6 like this. This one could be a bit further down. And then just do the same thing on the reference mesh. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, just make sure that these are placed on the ear mesh. I know sometimes you'll place them behind the ear, and that can cause some problems later on. Let's press S now and go to our other side view here. So I can start on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And just make sure that they're placed on the ear mesh. Okay. Good enough. You can also press G and do a couple on the head too. So where the hairline starts there. 1, 2 between the ears, and then 3. So I can do here like 1, 2, 3. And then if you go to the back of the head, D right here, you can see 40 right there. I just normally do one between the middle of the ears and then one at the base of the skull there, like that. So 40 like this, and then base of the skull up here is a little bit. Okay, and I'm doing this like really quick and dirty for you guys, but that's basically all we need right there. So when we're done that, just go ahead, click up here to head gen. All right. And we're going to throw some textures on this guy. Hopefully the result is fine. If it's not, I have a saved file. Okay, it looks pretty good to me. Now, you can also save here as well. If you want to save your progress, you can just click on save, and basically it'll save as an INI file. You can load this in at any time, and it will restore all those marker placements. So don't worry if you like, oh crap, I got to do this whole thing over again. Just save it as an INI file, and you can load it up at any time. Okay. I might do that for the troll later if we don't have enough time. This is fine. This part is basically only for the legacy, so we don't have to do anything here. Refine mesh. So this is basically going to allow us to refine the mesh of our CC generated head closer to the actual source mesh. Okay. Now, the way I normally start off with refining the mesh here, let's make sure this is larger so we can actually see it more. I should have done that for the points there, but anyways, I normally start off, and this is just me, everyone else has their own workflow. I normally start off using the project brush, okay? And I just use a radius, like a big radius. You can right click and drag to make your radius smaller or larger. Right click and drag like this, okay? I just kind of do it around the eyes. You can see it creates more of the bending around the eyes there, around the skull, because there's also some subtle details here, especially around the nose, you notice, that are different, okay? And there's the cheeks are way more gaunt. So basically, this is kind of refining the mesh to be closer to that of the actual character. So you can see here, the nose, pretty good. I think we're okay. Now, the ears, I'm not going to worry too much about those because this character has fairly messed up ears, and it's sort of annoying to fix those. So you can always ask me more later. So this is projecting. Okay, you can see the eyes coming in like that. So this is making it closer to the actual source mesh. Now, be very careful with this, because the more you do this, you might have to use smooth to kind of even it out, okay? You can see here the eyebrows or the eyelids, they're not really super even. And I probably just messed this up a little bit, but you kind of want to make this as smooth as possible, like this, okay? This may be a little bit messed up later on, but we're just going to try and smooth it out. And you can see this orange line here at the bottom of the eyelid. We have to use the move brush and deselect key borders. And basically, we can make the brush a little smaller there. And you want to kind of keep these, make these more consistent with each other. Try and smooth it out. Okay. Just make it not so jagged. And of course, this kind of pops out like that. It's super annoying. But you can also use smooth to just smooth that out as well. Again, it can be really picky, but as long as you have a fairly smooth eye line like that, you should be okay. I might have messed up on the eyelids here, but we'll see a little bit more later on. I would just go back and refine that if I messed up the eyelids. But the curves around the nose are good. These major eye lines along the bottom here, pretty good. Along the nasal right here. Lips, fairly good. Okay, we're just going to work with this, all right? Just because we have a little bit of a time restriction here. So what I'm going to do now is the last step. We'll just go ahead and select attach to body. And now we can use the current body, which is this body right here on the screen, the old man body, remember? We can use a neutral, male, female, baby. But if your character on the screen is a CC3 plus character, you can always select current and it'll apply right to that body. Now, what we're going to do here, the only difference here is we're going to diffuse, we're going to bake the textures from the diffuse. Okay, so from high poly mesh, use vertex color, doesn't matter. I mean, it does have a skin texture. You'll see it in a moment here. And I'm going to open up the high poly model that I previously had right here. Okay, so bring that up. And normal from the same thing, from high poly mesh. So it's going to bake, this is, the normal is very important on this map, and I'll show you later on. So texture size, 4K. Now, the reason why we have tutorials that go into like how you can bake your normal maps in Blender or in, you know, X normal or whatever, is because with Character Creator, with Headshot 2.0, it'll take for a 4K texture for the diffuse and the normal map, it'll take about 4 to 5 minutes, you know, which obviously those software that focus on the normal textures do a lot faster. So that's the reason why we have those tutorials. And that's the reason why I'm going to click generate. And this process here is going to take about 5 minutes. Literally takes about 5 minutes. On my computer, I timed it out. So while this is processing, we're going to go over to iClone, and we're going to animate our female character here. Now, the female character, one thing I forgot to do here is her eyes are a little too dark. If you find that your character's eyes are too dark, you can also customize those in iClone as well. Just select the eyes, modify materials here. We should have an option to go to the normal map here, and there is a eye cornea left and right. So click both of those. Control select the cornea left and right. Make sure it has digital human eye. So then we can go down here and go to our iris and advanced, and we can change the iris kind of color. You can see the iris color brightness. Okay, we just brighten it up like this. All right. I think the actual female had a bit of a brighter eye. Yeah. Okay, now it's relatively the same. This might be a little bit brighter. That's fine. Okay, so animating a character. Now I have about 10 minutes here to do this and also the orc characters. So I'm going to go and just really quick through the animation process here. The way I animate a character that has speech, I always start with the speech. That's generally my workflow. And I use Aculips to generally do that. So let's go up to plugins, or not plugins rather. Let's start with the speech. Now I can use my mouth. I can use the motion capture on my face to do this. If I do that, I'm just going to go over to your plugins, Motion Live. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. I just load up my iPhone here. Let's just load up our live face application. Now you can see my face in the zoom panel there. So I'm not going to bother mirroring the iPhone onto my screen here. Just make sure you have the proper connection here. So before the 999, you have to put the proper IP address. I'm doing wireless here. You can also do wired, 168.1.71, enter, and then connect. Shabam. So now we're connected. Go down here, click on face and live face. And basically my character is ready to be puppeted now. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and just preview. Okay, so there's our results, facial motion capture. Okay, so I'm going to do some facial motion capture for the next character. Because this character, I want to show a different technique. I'm going to use lip sync. I already have something enabled for this character, or audio file already made up for this character. So we can go ahead and use that. I'm just going to stop my motion capture right now, and we'll just disconnect it. So that's how easy it is to just whip out motion capture. You know, it's just super simple. You can do it in a pinch. I'm going to go over here to animation with my character selected, create a script. All right, and Aculips. And we'll probably go about 5 minutes over here, guys, just so you're aware, 5 or 10 minutes over. I'm going to open the audio file, and this one here is just some stupid audio I made up here, and go ahead and open it. If we play back.
Hello, I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
Okay, so I just generated this using Replica Studios plugin. For those of you who are not aware, Replica Studios has a plugin with iClone that you can just whip out AI-generated voices in no time. So I'm going to go ahead and generate the text. And we're going to have to modify this text, I believe. The Aculips is not really the best at transliterating the audio, okay? So you can see, hello, I'm a result of blah, blah. Okay. So what does she say again?
Hello, I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot.
Hello, I'm the result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. So just type it in. Hello, I'm the result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me. Capitalization doesn't matter here. Just go ahead and type in the audio or the text there and align it. So when you click align, it's going to align it. So we can, if we play through here, you can see we'll zoom out a little bit.
Hello, I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
Good enough. So we can apply that. Boom, it's already applied to our character. Let's play it back.
Hello, I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
Okay, so with Aculips, you get very accurate lip syncing. That's why I love using it more than your motion capture. I mean, facial motion capture, you can also do some good lip syncing, but there are some settings that you need to adjust, and I'm not going to do that right now. But we have that all taken care of. And if we press F3 and go into our timeline, let me get the zoom panel out of the way here. We have this, right? There's our voice under the Visine track. If we move over here, there we go. Just play back.
Hello, I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot.
All right, pretty good. If we want to make it a bit more, enunciate a bit more, we can right click on the Visine track, or clip rather, and choose lip options here, or talking style editor rather. Okay, so you can see now it's just a normal preset, and these are all the phoneme shapes that you can make, you can increase or decrease the strength of. I'm going to choose something enunciating here, and you can see some of the values go up to like 150. All right, and that's kind of what we want, and just close that down. So what happens now?
Hello, I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
So you can see there's more enunciation on her lips. All right, so that's what we want there. Now I'm going to apply one really quick thing here. We're going to go up to content, and we're going to go to animation. All right, and in animation, there is a pack, a very useful pack called Digital Soul. Let's go back to there. A Digital Soul right here. This is a pack I really recommend getting. I think it's only like $100 or something, because it basically has a number of different very natural presets. And I can talk more about that later if you guys want. But there's one I believe called Frightened. Okay, this is Frightened. Okay, so this will just basically apply a preset to our expression track. If I load up our expression track here under the character, right there. Let's just go ahead and double click on that at frame 1 and apply it. You can see that adds a frightened clip. And you can see now her face is immediately frightened. So,
Hello. I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
okay, really good. So, that, I mean, right off the bat, we have a very natural looking frightened face. Now, if we want to add on to that, on top of that, we can also use the facial puppet tool. I can do, specific editing if I want, but I can just also in like 2 seconds use the facial puppet tool, which we're going to do since we're limited on time here. Go up here to face puppet and make sure we're at frame 1. And I'm going to layer a couple things on here. The first thing I'm going to layer is her eyes. Okay, so I'm just going to click on eyes, head look right here. You can see the eyes are selected. And if we preview, okay, we can have the eyes looking nervously back and forth. Okay, it doesn't make sense if she's just looking straight at you and she's frightened. So let's go ahead and press record and make sure you have blend selected here. Very important. Okay, and strength is 1 for, that's fine. Okay.
Hello. I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
Okay, so then our clip expands to this here. Now it's called puppet clip. If we play back.
Hello. I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
Okay, so that's much better. Her eyes are kind of darting around, so she looks like she's frightened. And then we could even add on top of that, there's also a really cool one here, headshot. Now there's full face control. This one's look all, look browse all, look fixed. There's also an eyes one here. And the last one under eyes is called look fix, eyes cross, eyes wink, eyes squint wide. There's all sorts of different ones you can apply to your character here. I'm not going to bother too much with it. I think, we can also go down here and press clear and use these two, head tilting and head orientation. And if we do this, only those two, then we're only going to move the head. You can see now that it's fairly strong. So we may want to go and decrease the strength a bit to like 0.4 maybe. And then, okay. Now we can just make sure we're at frame 1 again and press record.
Hello. I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
Okay. And there's basically just really quick and dirty animation.
I'm a result of a freakish experiment called Headshot. Help me.
Okay. Now, depends on what you're using it for. That could be fine. You could also refine that more using other tools. But for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how to basically refine the skin on this character right here. And we are going to also bring in the orc character. So this one's going to be a really quick fix since we're limited on time here. I'm going to delete the original head. And you can see this is the head. This is the material, that the diffuse material for the character. Now, the easiest way to fix this, I mean, you can go into modify the skin color like we did with the first character, the photo generated character. But for this character, for time's sake, I'm just going to go to content. And we're going to just not go to actor. We're going to go back to skin here. So click on skin. And again, in skin, under that anatomy pack, where is it here? Skin and makeup, I believe. Let's go to items, actually. For skin, okay, so there's the presets here. You can see all the skin presets. The Camilla one we applied before is right here, the 4K one. I'm going to go find the old man texture. Now, what you can do here, let's try and maybe apply like a weird cartoon type texture here, just to see what it looks like. If I go up to the top here, this Owen skin, this is made for toon characters, obviously. If I select that and I select ignore normal texture, it's going to keep the normal texture, okay, for the character, but it's going to apply like a very cartoonish like diffuse on the character. And it's going to look a little bit weird. You'll see here in just a moment. So we still have the normal wrinkles and everything like that, but the diffuse is totally different. And it depends on the style you're going for. This could work. Obviously, you'd want to make the eyebrows or eyelashes there more transparent, but there you go. We'll just work with that for now. Control Z and undo that. I did kind of mess up the eyelid, I believe, on that one side. But for this one, I'm going to choose a preset here. We'll use the preset for male old A, okay? Now, for this one, we're going to keep the original normal, okay? Otherwise, it's going to replace it. So we want to ignore normal. So we don't want to replace it. Apply it. All right. And this is going to give us something like this. All right, pretty cool. Right away, you can see it just wraps this normal texture onto that characters. This is the mesh I just brought in, was basically white. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can add on to him. So let's go and do that. Let's go to content. Let's go to hair. Let's add a couple things to this dude here. Let's go to hair group, hair element we can go to. We can apply like a different type of beard to this character. Let's go to beard actually. And what's a good looking beard? I don't know. Hollywood hair right here. So there's a beard and brows builder you can take a look at. Now these are all different elements that you can customize ad nauseum in a variety of ways. These eyebrows are actually texture eyebrows. If you look at them from the side, they're not their own mesh. So if you want to apply eyebrow mesh, we can do the same thing that we did before. Go to eyebrows and we can do something like male wild for this guy here, you know, and give him like eyebrows like this. And then we can just go to hair and, you know, whatever hair this guy has. I think there's something like a balding hair somewhere down here. There we go. Male pattern bald. Okay. Would probably suit this guy a bit more. Boom. All right. So now we have a totally different character. You can edit the mesh on this character. You can modify all sorts of different ways. If I try to apply the facial animation on this character, if we go up to a modify here, you can see there's no wrinkle section here on this character because this is not an extended CC4 profile yet. So to do that, what we need to do is go to content. We can actually do it this way as well. If we go to animation here, we go to facial profile editor. Oh, there it is already out. Okay. You can select edit expressions. And when it automatically generates a head from a mesh headshot, it'll give you this traditional, like very, very basic traditional presets for all the different blend shapes. All right. It should load up in just a moment here. Okay, there we go. Not sure what happened there. You can see right now it says traditional. If you click on traditional, you can change it to CC4 extended. Now, before I do that, to show you the difference, no, just trust me on this. Okay, so CC4 extended will be basically give you a lot more blend shapes on the face. Okay, so just apply that facial profile. We don't need to save it beforehand, but when we apply that, it's going to change from traditional to CC4 extended. And you can see now there's a lot more blend shapes. All right, all down here, you can see here, eye look, brows. There's a lot more blend shapes. Just trust me on that one. And there's tutorials on that if you want more detail later on. But now we have a character that has a full set of blend shapes for the face, our CC4 extended profile. We can go to modify. And now you can see there's the wrinkles available right here, expression wrinkles. If we activate expression wrinkles, it'll apply a basic template to our basic wrinkle template to our character's face. And you'll see in just a moment the difference that makes. So I'm going to go ahead and check with expressions here. Go something like this. See those wrinkles on the forehead right there? Now, if we decrease our overall influence, this is what the character would look like without a wrinkle template applied. So the wrinkles are basically an additional layer that just add another layer of realness to the character's face. I like that. I think it looks pretty good. If you want to apply, specific wrinkle templates, you can go down to your content and go to, it's under actor. You'll find expression wrinkles right here. And there's a number of different templates. Again, I have a content pack installed that has all these different facial templates here. And you also want to probably try and go down to wrinkle essentials, rather 4K here, or wrinkle essentials, I believe. No. There's one for smiles anyways, and it should be in here somewhere. But anyways, applying this is just fine. Now, if I go to modify animation and just go to edit facial, we can test out different facial expressions and see the level, what the wrinkles will do. So we'll go to expression, go to like maybe angry, go down here to like something like this. Okay, so yeah, it looks pretty angry. Now, if we go to the wrinkles right here and we decrease the effectiveness of the wrinkles, notice around the eyes and especially the nose there, notice the big difference there. So again, it's just another level of realness that adds to your character's overall personality, all right? And you can also increase the anger or decrease the anger. Okay, so I mean, we whip this character up pretty fast, and that's pretty good for what we've just done. You can bring this character then into iClone. That's the program. If we have our character selected, we can replace that character. We'll just select this dude and send him to iClone, and well, he'll be a lot uglier than the female character. So yeah, and then let's go ahead and start on our next one. This is going to be the orc or the troll type character. So we can start a new project once this guy is loaded in. Make sure he's okay, it's fine. So there you go. Again, we remove the animation data. The head movements is still there. You can see we get the nice subsurface scattering through the ears there. And again, this can be obviously refined in various ways. Let's just whip out a really quick motion live facial capture for this guy. Whoop, bop, boop, bang. Okay, what should I do? Let's just make a improv kind of facial movement. Okay, there we go. Just to kind of show off the facial animation. I'm not sure what that looked like because I wasn't looking at the camera. Okay, not too bad. All right, that's what we're going to work with. There we go. And then we'll just make our project length that long. Okay, so it looks pretty good. I mean, for just whipping it out in like 10 minutes, I think it's not too bad. We'll disconnect that. And what I'll do finally here, this is the final one. And again, sorry, I'm going over time here, guys, but a lot to get through. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. And for this one, what we're going to do is I'm going to apply one of those same characters from the anatomy pack that I mentioned earlier. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing it because I have that anatomy pack here all set up. Let's make sure we just go back to everything here. Human anatomy. Let's just type it in. Anatomy to the rescue. All right. And for this ogre, I'm going to use a male heavy body. How's that sound? Or maybe the male Herculean. That one works fine. No. Okay. So we're going to bring in another custom texture. Don't worry, this one we don't have any baking time on this one because we're just going to basically use it from the source texture, from the source model. All right, looks pretty cool. All right. Again, this is another one from that anatomy pack. Let's bring in our troll head. Shabam, temp and troll. All right, raw materials, troll head. There we go. So we have this troll head right here. This is the FBX file. Okay, it's not too high poly. Bring it in as a prop. Oh, we applied it to the wrong area there. Let's make sure the character is not selected and then bring in the troll head again. All right. And we bring it in as a prop. Okay. Now, I'm not going to bother, since for time limitations here, I'm not going to bother going through all of the points for the, let's go to headshot 2, mesh, start head generation. So this is our mesh right here. It's not too detailed. If we go to scene, you can see the wireframe right here. It's not as detailed as the other head was. It's still fairly detailed, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to bring this head and into a character creator character. So headshot version 2, mesh, start head generation. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can also save your progress in the align points step. So I'm going to do that just for time's sake here. And I'm going to show you some quick editing. So with this character, the struggle is that since the ears and the nose are like way out of whack, there's like, if we click on auto detection, for example, what's going to happen is going to be like, oh crap, where is this guy's eyes? And it doesn't notice where the eyes are properly. The nose is exaggerated, so the 17 is way down here. Even the facial points aren't aligned. So if you do auto detection on a head like this, even the first one for the eyebrow is way over here on top of the ear, and over here it's like on the proper positioning. So it takes a while. And also this model has a different challenge, has a sort of a big, huge, wide neck here. And kind of getting these harmonized is a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and open up here, load in. Let's go back to the troll head here. I believe it's in here. There you go, troll head. So this is the INI file that I mentioned earlier. All right. So if we open this up, boom, these are all the placement markers I have earlier, and I saved this so that they're proper. You can see there's a number of different markers down the back side here, along the face, and all the nose markers and everything are properly placed around the eyes and everything like that. Okay. So you'll just have to trust me on this. Don't worry, I'm not going to go too much into detail. Click on head gen. So we're going to generate the head, and it should generate a fairly decent head. You can see there's 45 alignment points, and what it'll do is it will basically apply this troll model to the big buff built bodybuilder body there. It'll refine the you can see there, looks pretty good. Now, of course, you can do things like refine the mesh. I think this mesh is already pretty much refined. There's actually a tutorial specifically on this model that I've done. You can go to the Realism courses page under character creator headshot 2. I've actually done a tutorial specifically for this model. Again, if you go to the side here, you'll see things like the nose. Okay, the positioning is a little bit off. Again, you want to use project here to get the projection properly. Okay, get the nose, get the brow angle proper. Okay, just like this. Okay, get it out properly. There's all sorts of details, because this is a fairly, when you have a very high poly mesh, this project part is more important, because let's look specifically on the nose, or actually I think there's a kind of a bump, like a wart on the back of his head here. You can see this wart over here. Right now it doesn't notice that wart, so we can use the project brush and click and drag, and it kind of, you can see that wart appear right there. Okay, that wart is the bump right there. That's the wart. Okay, so it's actually part of the mesh. It's not a normal projection or anything like that. It's actually part of the mesh. So you'd use, your project brush to get it closer to the original right here. Again, I'm not going to worry too much about this, but you can find out more on the tutorial. Just project. You can see those little details. And again, this is more important in a high poly mesh rather than a low poly mesh. Low poly meshes project doesn't really matter as much. You can see the bumps in the chin there. Okay, the nasal passage right there is fairly detailed. Around the neck, we can bulge it out a lot, yada yada. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about it, to be honest. Let's just make sure the head is reasonably smooth. Okay, good. Okay, now we can go ahead and attach to body. Again, this is quick and dirty. You can select current body, and for this, I'm going to choose the diffuse from source mesh and normal from source mesh, because it has both of those textures. All right, and then just use current, no mask. Let's use a 2K texture size maybe, just to make it faster, and generate. And it's going to bake all those textures and apply this troll head to the body of our bodybuilder character. And then I'm just going to do a couple of really quick mesh edits. I have some preset eyes and some preset accessories that we can apply to the body that'll show up really nicely. And then we'll just call it a day. All right, there you go. Boom. Okay, so the head looks really small. We could also, we could have chosen keep head the same size. There's an option to keep head same size when you export. I didn't select that, but no worries. We can just scale up the head. So this character needs some adjustment for the morphs, obviously. So you can see there, we got the nice normal map. Okay, on the head, everything is nice and adjusted. You can see even that bump, the little diffuse bump there, and along the neck too. Okay, and the wart on the nose. Okay, those are all part of the texture, are all part of the actual mesh. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to go into modify and morphs, and let's just click on if I just type in scale. Okay, there's a head scale and a body scale. Okay, so there's head scale right there. Bam. Okay, now that head scale is maybe still too small. You can do that up to like 200, for example, and make it even bigger. All right, and there's also a head scale. This one's under the head right here, so you can make it a lot bigger like that. Okay, Now, if the head's going too far forward, you can also click on, I think there's some neck stuff you can adjust here. Neck length, I think, is one that makes it higher up like that. Yeah, neck length, neck scale. You can also like manually move it back as well. Let's go into under headshot. There is some neck ones as well. Neck height. Okay, so we're going to change that from 50 to like 150, for example, make it bigger like that. So his neck seems like larger. Okay, it looks good from the front. And if I want to get rid of this like big lumpy thing on the back, then I can just go over to modify, attributes, edit mesh, and quickly use the smooth brush under sculpt. Use a smooth brush. Again, you can also export this to ZBrush and whatever you have, but smooth here, increase the radius size, and just smooth out the back of the head here. Just like this. And it'll kind of get rid of that bump. Maybe increase the strength there. But there you go. Really nicely smooths it out. If we don't want him to have so much of a huge bump on the back. Okay. So again, this is quick and dirty editing I'm doing here, guys, but these are just ways that if you have more time, you can kind of just make it different. You can also move the brush in if you want the neck to be a little bit further in. That can cause some issues, obviously. Okay, so bring that up a little bit like this, a little bit more space in there. And again, the character creator tools for sculpting are fairly rudimentary, so you can always use export this to your favorite sculpting tool and take care of that way. So there we go. All right, and then I can just throw in, have a couple preset things here. Let's make sure we can see it. Troll eye, so there's some eyes that I specially did there. And you can just replace the entire eye. Doesn't matter, they're just a little bit darker. There's the troll teeth. So the custom teeth. I think I've found them in the content store right there. All right, cool. If you want to open your character's mouth, you can just go over here to attributes and click on this. All right, there you go. Raw. All right. And what was I doing? Oh yeah, down here. And then some clothing. Just give him a loincloth and an accessory. Oops. All right, so there's the troll with everything, the hammer in hand and everything like that. There's also nails. He has very nicely manicured nails right here, but we can also go to content, all the way back up to actor, and under actor, there's nails. And let's use something from the realistic human skin pack, something like this. You can just apply that to your character. It's going to look weird. There you go. But you can also adjust the length and the color of those and everything. It just looks a little bit better. Stiletto nails. All right, cool. And then of course we can take this guy into iClone. Let's replace this dude here. Do we have him selected? Yes, we do. All right. So we'll just take him and send to iClone. Oh, yes, this one right here. Okay, make sure the character is selected. I had the accessory selected. And throw into iClone. And yeah, so that's about it. I'm going to do some Q&A now, guys. We'll just kind of see how this guy replaces the animation. Okay, whatever. It's just going to replace the animation anyways. There you go. That's all this dude does. And let's do a little quick motion live. And so we're moving around really quick here. Let's do an orc yell or whatever. Okay. I think this guy's a little bit cartoony. He doesn't really look as angry as he should, but good enough. All right. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. An extra 20 minutes here. But let's get to the Q&A now. Any questions you guys have, put those into the Q&A panel, and I will answer those for you. So let's get started here. Looks like we've got a number of questions already. Sorry, I wasn't able to read the chats as we were moving along here, guys. Cool. All right. Q&A. All right, I'm going to put this window over here. All right. Good stuff. Question from Doug. Do you recommend the hair and build builder package? I did notice a lot of black or dark brunette options. Yeah, so there's the hair and beard. Now I can start to go into Chrome here and show you guys where all this stuff is. Content store. There's the beard and brows builder is what it's called. If you just type in like beard, I'm sure you could just find it. Under not iClone, it's under character creator. Beard. It used to pop up on the top there. So yeah, hair and beard builder combo. Recommend this. You know, it's not cheap, but the beard and brows builder. Gosh, that's a mouthful. Is the one I really recommend right here. I'll throw the link for this in the chat window. This has a whole ton of beard options to start off from. And I mean, again, for those of you who have the time and the skill to create your own hairstyles and your own beards, you may not need this. It's always good to start though from. I mean, you can always use these and you can modify them yourselves later on. Let's just throw this in the chat here. There we go. Highly recommend this pack. And the one I was talking about earlier is the SkinGen 3-in-1. This one is I think it's just type SkinGen, you probably pop up. Maybe not. So makeup and SFX, this is only one part of that package, that bundle that I mentioned here. It might be somewhere else. So this realistic human skin, you can see by itself is $99, but it's also part of that package. So I mean, recommend checking that one out. Is it called realistic human skin? There's a bundle anyways that includes it. I'm not sure where it is right now, but yeah, it should. Not sure why it's not showing up here, but it's called SkinGen 3-in-1. And it also includes ultimate morphs as well. So you can see all the stuff that it includes. It's a lot. It just saves you a lot of time to have these presets available. There's the wrinkle essentials pack that I mentioned earlier. This one, it's good. It's good because it provides you with all those wrinkle templates that I showed you earlier. But yeah, it's not showing up at the top here. I thought it would show up in the best sellers, but I think if you click on one of them, it'll basically show up at the bottom here under like recommended or something. Yeah, here you go. Digital Human Essential. So there's no SkinGen in it. This is the one I mentioned here. Digital Human Essential, it's called. Sorry for that. So this one includes the ultimate morphs, realistic human skin, all that stuff. And this one also includes the human anatomy set, this one right here. So recommend checking those out. Okay. I can throw this one in the chat here. You can see right here. Does it still? I thought it still came with the human anatomy, but should be. It might pop up on your when you add it to your cart. But let's try this one here. Oops. Yeah, so maybe anatomy is not there anymore. It was there like 2 days ago, but I think it's one of these that includes it. So make sure you check on your cart before you whatever. Okay, I'll worry about that later. It was like that 2 days ago, but maybe not. Okay, so let's go into the Q&A again. Thanks for that question, Doug. Another question of Doug here is, as I take photos of my clients and use them in videos, sometimes the model doesn't look as good as they would like. Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of you who are aware, who have been using Headshot version 1 for quite a while, the base you're planting it onto a 3D head, and it's kind of just the AI tries to map that the shape of the head, model's face, a little bit of fandangling in Photoshop, but that really depends on the time and effort you're willing to put into it. Workflow, that one you can take a 3D scan. Like if you have like a bunch of iPhones, you can actually take a 3D scan of your head, and there's a tutorial. There's two tutorials, actually, a 2-part series on the Realizing courses page that talks about how to take a 3D scan of the head and adjust that and create your own head mesh. That's always a bit more accurate. So I suggest exploring those as well. Okay, question from Eric. Is it possible to send the head to ZBrush to stylize and keep the facial blend shapes from CC4 and Headshot 2? Absolutely. So when you take the character from Character Creator to ZBrush, basically it keeps a connection. So there's a GoZ plugin that you can use, and the GoZ plugin just basically it keeps all the information for the blend shapes, and you don't have to worry about any of that. And there's a bunch of GoZ tutorials on our YouTube channel. Recommend checking those out. Yeah, we have a very good workflow from ZBrush to Character Creator back and forth, so you don't have to worry about losing any blend shape. Work with in Headshot 1. Is there a texture in HS1 and in the modify panel? So Walter, for the image that I showed you earlier, I highly recommend having keep the image resolution as high as possible, because if you want to generate like a 4K texture, facial texture, it helps if you have a higher resolution of source image. That's all I can say about that. The lower resolution your source image is, the worse results you're going to get. Just be aware of that. Okay, question from Ibis. How's it going, Ibis? Good to see you again. When animating the faces via Live Link in Unreal Engine, the eyebrows don't animate independently, like raising inner left or right. They just go up or down together. What's the workaround? I haven't had that issue. I think what you may be having the issue with is the extended profile. So what I would suggest for those of you who are using Unreal, the first thing I always suggest, because Unreal is always updating, is 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and then we have to release a 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 update, auto setup update, live link update. So make sure that your versions of those are consistent, because from the sounds of it, you may have an outdated version for your project. So make sure that your updates are all consistent. They don't even have to be the latest. You can still use 4.9, 4.9, but just make sure that the plugin data is consistent, because there's a whole bunch of blueprint stuff that I don't want to go into right now, that there's inconsistencies, there's slight tweaks between the versions. So between version 4.9 and 5.2, the blueprints are quite different for the live link. So just be aware of that. The first thing I always recommend people do is keep the versions consistent for the plugin and iClone. And the next thing I would try to do with that is make sure that your character has the extended facial profile in Character Creator. Like I showed earlier, it's not using the traditional one, it's using the extended profile. All right. Hopefully that's clear as mud. Question from Dawn is, in the head to mesh demo, is there a grid that can be displayed as an overlay so that the 24 alignment points can be accurately placed as a reference image? Very good question, Dawn. I should have showed that earlier. So over here, if we go back into, headshot right here, a little bit of mesh to head. So you can also, if we go back to align points, for example, you can also change the shading mode to show the wireframe on the character. It's going to take a second here to go. We're going back in time. But there is an option on the top to just see the wireframes. So like this, shading mode, just change to wireframe. Okay, wireframe on shaded, on white, for example. Again, if your character is super high res like this, then there's a lot of detail there. Okay, but yeah, in the align point section, you can just change the shade mode up here. Okay, to whatever you want. vertex color. This one doesn't have vertex color information, but yada yada. All right. Q&A. Another question from Don. Can the smoothing of the head, eyelids, etc. be in symmetry to the opposite side? Yeah, if you want it symmetrical, that's in the refine mesh section, so we have to go forward in time. Good Lord. Okay. We're going back and forth. Yeah, there's a symmetry option there, but generally, most characters won't be completely symmetrical, so you may not want to use that option. Just be aware of that. Yeah, refine mesh here. I'm 90% sure there's a symmetrical option. I'm pretty sure there is. Have I used it before? We'll find out. Yeah, symmetry edit right here. Okay, so that button right there gives you equal rights, left and equal modifications on the left and right. Symmetry edit. All right. Another question from Walter. Reillusion should work and sell different kinds of references like animals and stylized animal references. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we do a lot of content development ourselves, but we also rely a lot on our developer community to create stuff like that. I know we have tons of like animal heads and stuff like that in the marketplace. I can't really recommend any specifically myself, but yeah, check those out. There's different heads in the marketplace that you can always check out. Don asks, will there be a developed software to use on Android, tablet, or phones for facial motion capture? Don, this is a question almost as old as time here. I think at this moment we are looking into that right now. It's not in the immediate future, but there is inquiries into the technology that is required to develop that. So it's not going to be soon, but it's not going to be too long either. But right now, yeah, everyone's just relying on an iPhone. I honestly have this Apple 10 iPhone that I've had for years now, and the only thing I use it for is facial mocap. I don't even use it as a phone. So it's almost just another piece of equipment that you have lying around. And I'm sure you can pick up iPhone 10s on like eBay or Amazon nowadays for cheap too. So Valdson asks a good question. Does it work with other languages? So right now, Valdson, we are currently working on getting Aculips to work with other languages. Right now, the only option is English, unfortunately, but we are working with other technology providers to adapt that to other languages as well. All right. I'm not sure if it's going to be this year though, but it might be next year. That will be next year, but not this year. I'll just say that for now. Question from Crispin. What would you recommend for 3D scanning of the heads? I'm currently looking into Zephyr. Is that a good one for CC? So there's a number of different 3D scanning softwares. Like you can even just go and like type in like in Google, like 3D head scan options, stuff like that. And there's all sorts of YouTube videos, guys that, use different types of software here. Artech is one that we've used before. This is much more advanced for like medical uses and stuff like that. So you can just check out all these options here. I can't really I've never done the 3D head scanning myself. That's our art team that does that. I've actually never done it in history of myself. So, but JS Films is always a good guy. So he uses the reality capture right here. He did this a couple years ago though. But JS Films is always a good channel to follow. He does a lot of stuff with iClone and Character Creator, especially a lot of stuff in Unreal and MetaHuman. So check out that channel there, JS Films, for other stuff. And yeah, but sorry, Crispin, I can't really, since I've not really had much experience in it myself. There's probably a YouTube video out there that some guys like, hey, I've used every single option out there. This is what I recommend. So I'd recommend following that guy instead of following my advice on that. So question from Helene. I started with CC 1.5, so I have 1, 2, 1, 3, and 3, CC 3 plus. Can I update the older characters or should I just hide them? You can actually convert your older CC characters to CC 3 plus characters. There is a tutorial somewhere on how to do that. But when you have your like older CC characters up in character creator, like if we find like an older character here, well, I don't know. Let's see. So there's all the CC4. That's not going to work. If you have an older character that is like a CC3 character, I'm not sure if I don't know where to find any. But when you have them, if you go up to modify and you go into the attributes here, it'll tell you what kind of character it is. So right now we have the CC3 plus character base. If it says something like CC2, CC3 character right here, there'll be an option below it to convert to CC3 plus. So there'll be an option that shows up here to convert to CC3 plus. That's under your attributes right here. It'll show up. Just click on that and it'll walk you through the process. And there's a tutorial on how to do that that you can search for. I'm not sure where it is, but I don't want to search for it live right now. But I think it's just Google like convert CC3 or CC2 to CC3 plus. It'll pop up, I'm sure. So sorry for the half answer, but that's what happens to convert your old characters. Bill Halverson asks, we create cartoon characters, we want to import and turn them into speaking characters. What apps do we need? You showed tonight that it would allow us to do that. All characters are 2D images, JPEGs. Whew, okay, so Bill, that's a tough one. Obviously, with a 2D image, you're restricted to the first legacy option that I showed you. And the problem with that is you're applying a 2D cartoon character's face, and what it generates is not normally a cartoon-like face. So you're gonna experience a lot of challenges there that would require you to go into some more extensive modeling of the character's head to make it more cartoony. Since we don't have a cartoon head preset, the closest would be the baby preset, but there's a lot of difficulty with that. You almost have to generate your model, your 3D model first in ZBrush or something like that, because the proportions of these stylized cartoon heads are just so different from the other stylized or the other types of heads. So that's a very challenging, you would almost want to just start with one of the cartoon heads you can find in the content store. There's a lot of toon style, like anime style heads in the content store. I would recommend even just using one of those as a starter, because the 2D image for cartoon characters, stylized heads to 3D heads is not the best. I'll just straight out admit that. Okay, so Crispin asks here, will there be a webinar on rendering? With iRay being discontinued, it'd be good to know the workflow for using iClone with Omniverse, and also what limitations there are moving content from iClone to Omniverse. There's very little limitations when it comes to iClone and Omniverse. For those of you who aren't aware, Omniverse is a free software offered by NVIDIA. It's great for rendering. Uses ray tracing technology for the rendering. So the renders are a lot more realistic than iClone. And you can easily convert your entire scene, characters and everything included, from iClone to Omniverse. There's also a live link from iClone to Omniverse. Okay, so you can do it all live. And there's tutorials on all that stuff. To be frank, though, a webinar on rendering, well, everyone loves waiting for rendering, right? So a webinar on rendering would be just like, a lot of me just kind of blabbering on, waiting for the renders, unfortunately. So, but Omniverse rendering is fortunately fairly real time. It's fairly good. Doesn't take a lot of time. Despite the ray tracing technology. For those of you who are looking for a free option for better rendering, better quality rendering in your scenes, Omniverse is excellent. You can also use Unreal Engine. A lot of people use both those options, and we have live link for both of them. So yeah, the decision is up to you. Question from Jonathan. I have a couple of questions that I would like to see explained. First question, what is the best way to pose and ATT the characters in a 2D background? I'm not sure what the ATT means. But yeah, for a 2D background, I mean, in my iClone scene here, there's a 2D background. It really doesn't matter. It depends on how detailed the background is. Like if we through a city, let's see if this this backdrop here, I think I might have like a wallpaper or something I can throw in there. Where would that be? Pictures? save pictures. All right, let's throw something like this on there. Onto that backdrop there. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but okay. Whoa, where do we go? There we go. Okay, so here's your 2D background. Obviously we can probably put this a little bit differently, but say this background had more details, like say this one. Maybe that one will show up better. Okay. All right, cool. So here's your 2D background. What you can do is you can just make sure you have a camera. We can just create a camera and use basically depth of field. This is what I would do. In your camera options here, go to depth of field, and you activate it down here. Pick your target, pick the dude, and then blur your background more. Something like this. Okay, so that way it looks like you can't really tell the detail of the background, but it still looks like it could kind of be pretty cool, right? Like it could be like we have to repick the character here. There you go. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's how I would work with a 2D background and the 3D characters in the front. If you don't want it to make it look like the 2D background was an actual 2D background. The second question, I'm building characters to help me with my book illustrations. Yeah, so Jonathan, the methodology that I just showed you there, that's really what I would do, especially for comic books, because you can actually use different shading on this character to make him more flat, because it looks like he's almost too detailed for the background. But then again, it depends on the style of your comic too. So what's the best way to organize my content folders? Man, that's like asking me how to organize your desktop. There's really just no solid answer there I can give you. No specific answer for how to organize your content folders. You can create your own custom stuff. I always just follow default stuff, to be honest. I don't really mess around with my own custom stuff. I just go with the flow, so to speak. Okay, question from Stefan Cook. Was the last character you showed a humanoid or a CC3? So the last character I showed was a CC3 plus character, using the buff Herculean dude from the anatomy pack that I mentioned earlier. All right. Question from Tari. Sign up for the newsletter and keep an eye out for sales. Maybe that's more of a suggestion, but yeah, I recommend doing that. Newsletters, if you're interested in the software, newsletters are always a way to keep yourself appraised of the newest offers and everything like that. So yeah, recommend that for show. Raphael asks, you can export a fixed facial like smiling to a game agent like Unity. I've tried to do this and only export all of the morphs, but without expressions. So Raphael, if you want to export your facial animation along with your character to Unity, you have to export the FBX and you have to include animation in the FBX. All right, so there's an option here. Say, for example, I was exporting this dude to Unity, this weird facial. Oh, I actually did some camera movement. All right, so whatever. I just go up to File. You can also go up here to export to USD directly. That's the format for Omniverse. And anything else, you go up to File, Export, and Export FBX. This would be for Unity. Choose the Unity target tool preset, Unity 3D, and you want to export a range. So right here, I've defined my range to 460 frames. This is the project length here. You can see between the two green triangles, 0 to 460, or you can just do the current frame. If you only want one facial, like one pose, use current frame or range. You want to Unity. No, you don't want to embed the textures for Unity because it has an auto setup, and you can just do all this stuff, whatever you want, and export that, and that'll export an FBX file with your morph, with your character model, in addition to the animations as well, facial and body included. All right, hopefully that answers your question there, Raphael. Good question. Next one from Kieran. Do wrinkle essentials transfer over to Blender when we import a CC4 character? Absolutely they do, and they look really good in Blender. There's an auto setup tool for Blender that allows you to import your character directly into Blender and adjust all the wrinkle values and adjust all the facial material values in Blender, it's identical to the features that you have or the parameters that you have available in Character Creator. So there's tutorials on Blender Auto Setup, I believe. If we go into like Reillusion courses, this will be under Character Creator. And plugins, pipeline, and renders. This will be of interest to a lot of people here based on the questions I've heard so far. And there's Blender here. Yep, Blender over here behind my window. And Blender Auto Setup right here. This is the one you want to take a look at. Blender Auto Setup. And there's some other ones here as well that get into more detail. But yeah, they mainly focus on Blender Auto Setup, which is the one you want to take a look at here. All right. Coolio. That answers that question, hopefully. Songwoo Kim asks, can I export the body and face separately for body motion capture? Yeah, you can. I'm trying to think of the scenario why you'd want to do that. I mean, maybe apply the body animation separately or the facial animation to a separate body animation. But of course, generally, if you have body and facial capture at the same time, you want to apply them at the same time. But yeah, you definitely can do that. If you're going to do that, then you would have to do it in iClone. What I would do is just get rid of the animation for the body. You can remove the animation from the body separately from the face, and you export that animation separately. That's what I would do. Of course, you just creates more files. But if you're using iClone, then it's just easier to do the motion editing. I'm not sure what software you're exporting to, but it's easier to do the motion editing in iClone. I find iClone super easy to use. You know, if you're using Motion Builder or something like that, it's even easier than that. But yeah, I think there's ways to do it, but kind of workaround ways at this point, depending on which software you're editing or exporting to. Let's go to a question from Steven here. Will there be any ability in the future to convert Humanoid to CC3? Not at the moment. You can't export. So for those of you who aren't aware, humanoid characters, they're classified as humanoid characters, and it'll show up as a humanoid character right here for type. Just because their facial elements, like a humanoid character may not have any facial blend shapes, but they have the body, or they may have facial elements, facial bones. So like the eyes and the mouth and everything are controlled by bones instead of blend shapes. That could be a humanoid character. The problem there, of course, is the facial blend shapes. So it needs to have at least a base amount of facial blend shapes as a reference. And some humanoid characters don't have that. So that creates the issue right there. So unfortunately, I don't see them having that in the future as far as I know. And again, I could be wrong there, but yeah, I wouldn't what's the expression? I wouldn't hold anyways, I wouldn't wait too long for it. I wouldn't wait around for it. My brain's kind of fried now. We're coming on 2 hours of this webinar. Question from Amir. I'm going to go through a couple more questions here, guys. We'll try to end it, I think, maybe 10 minutes past the hour. Okay, so we'll do another 15 minutes of questions. Question from Amir. I'm using a 3D scan mesh fully textured with shaders to create an avatar using headshot. When I render it using the shaders and not from the mesh, the UV automatically maps to the AI generated model, which is great. How is this being done? Oh man, you're asking the wrong guy. For me, it's like engineering magic. You know, I'm just the knucklehead that's sitting here demoing stuff. I'm the sales type guy. Of course, I do my own projects, but I don't know the programming and everything behind it. Is there an easy conversion between UV maps into CC? Oh man, to be honest, Amir, that opens a can of worms. Obviously, you can export all the UV maps from CC to Photoshop and back and forth to whatever software you're using, Substance, etc., 3D Coat. It's easy to export your UV maps back and forth. Again, just go to your character materials and you'll find some UV stuff up here. Under your texture settings, there's an option here to export UV reference. Okay, so if I choose, for example, the body, or the head's probably more interesting. Just export to UV right here. You can export this exports the diffuse or whatever texture map you have selected. So we can just do the bump and export the bump separately into Photoshop. But we can also export the UV map as well, which is obviously useful for those of you who are more artistically inclined and can actually do art as opposed to me. There's a UV right there, export UV reference. And then, of course, when you're doing this, you can obviously put one layer on top of the other and, use it as a reference for how you want your normal map to be, et cetera, et cetera. I won't do that right now, though. I'll just close that down since I want to get through some more questions here. That's how you launch your maps. Q&A back here. I see some stuff in the chat window. I'm not sure who's chatting, but just be aware, yeah, the questions go in the Q&A. All right. C Thrower. Hi, Kai. Is it possible to use an animal head mesh and attach it to a human body? I mean, yeah, I just did the troll is sort of an animal. It's like semi-humanoid, I guess. But you can use a horse head, the same thing. So if you want to like create, I don't know, BoJack Horseman or something, the 3D version, just take a 3D model of BoJack Horseman's head, the same as I did with the troll head, and just go through the exact same process. Obviously, the nose is going to be very different, and it will take some trial and error. I've never tried something that extreme, like actual horse head. But again, to get it attached to the body is what you want to do. The mouth could be a challenge. Yeah, a horse would be a pretty extreme example because the mouth is just sticking out. So I've never tried it, but you can give it a shot, and it'll take a lot of editing, I'm sure. It won't be as simple as this troll. I mean, the troll has animal features, but they're not as exaggerated as a horse mouth would be. Like I know you'd have trouble with the nose and the mouth, but I've never attempted it. So, but you can give it a shot. Douglas asks, what are the options for altering voices? So I use Replica, the Replica Studios plugin here. If you go to plugins, oh, this is Character Creator. In iClone, it's a plugin for iClone. Right here. Okay, so this is using the Replica. If you want to download the plugin right here, it's a free download. So I'll throw this in the chat window for you guys. Boom, bang. All right, there we go. Yeah, that's, I mean, creating AI voices, Replica Studios does great at that. I use it all the time for certain projects. You can also alter your own voice, obviously, in various audio software, but that's probably a webinar for a different time. So sorry about that, but I can definitely recommend Replica for AI generated voices. And you can have a certain amount free. So you can try it free up here. I think it's like 30 or 10 minutes free. I'm not sure what it is now. I know they changed it a while back, but maybe you can test it out. It's awesome. Question from Carl. Is there a way to remove fingers? My character only has 3 fingers on each hand and 3 toes on each foot. So Carl, if you have a character that has only 3 fingers, I'm not sure if your character is a CC3 plus character. I'm assuming it's not. So if you're bringing in a model that has only 3 fingers and 3 toes, you would use AccuRig. Okay, so when you bring in a character using AccuRig, you have the option to go down here. There's a section called AccuRig when you bring in your model. Okay, this opens up a whole new section, but see, this character has obviously 5 fingers. You just go to create guides, and right under create guides you can see it says number of fingers. That's your second step. You can choose 5, you can choose 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0. If you have like a peg leg or a peg arm or something like that, your character can have 0 fingers and only a forearm. So after create guides, this is when you're bringing in a totally brand new mesh from like any software, really. Recommend checking out the AccuRig tutorials. AccuRig is an excellent tool that basically rigs up your 3D model in like a couple of minutes. Highly recommend checking that out. We also have webinars on that. Again, I won't go into too much detail since I'm going to try and get to more questions here before we end off. But Carl, that would all be done in Accurig. Yeah, so that's under the training center here, character creator. And I believe there's a separate one for Accurig. Oh no, I think if you go back home, Actor Core. Oh, there you go. Under Actor Core, Accurig, okay? There you go. So check out all the Accurig tutorials. And the one I just talked about is with the peg leg here. You can see the dude with the hook for the arm. Okay. So that's masking unused body parts. And this here's the accurate hand rig. So 0 fingers, 3 fingers, 5 fingers. You can check out this tutorial here. All right. Where are we? Q&A. Hope it answers your question there, Carl. Question from Azat. Is it possible to create a centaur and sculpt the legs in the direction to more humanity? Is it possible to add wool? Is it possible to add genitals? Okay, so those are all those 3 separate questions and 3 separate workflows. Sculpting the legs would be done in ZBrush or whatever modeling software you're using. That's the way I would do it, using GoZ. Adding wool. Now, one good thing about Unreal Engine is Unreal Engine has really good soft cloth physics, like soft body physics for stuff like hair and grass and wool. Blender also is pretty good, so you can add that, after you've brought it into Unreal Engine. You can also obviously apply certain soft body accessories to your character. Now, iClone's not the best at handling like super complex real-time stuff like the hair on the back of a horse, for example, or a bear. I would recommend doing that in Unreal. Adding genitals, that's yeah, you can do soft body physics for that too. Just add an extra bone wherever you want the genitals on your character to be, and you can just use spring. You can use a spring bone for that, depending on which sort of genitals you're talking about. I won't get into more details. This question from Azat was, can we export characters here from DAZ 3D? Yeah, so we have a DAZ pipeline for Genesis, the Victoria character, 3 characters, Genesis 8 characters, all your basic DAZ characters. There's a pipeline. There's something called a DAZ expansion. I don't think you even need the DAZ expansion anymore. You can just bring the characters directly and use Accurig to rig them up. But yeah, I haven't imported a DAZ character in ages. But so Jonathan, I think you clarified your earlier question. Add or attach a character to a 2D background. The scenario is still not really clear on that. Sorry. I probably need to kind of see what you're talking about to get a better grasp on what the scenario is there. So sorry about that, Jonathan, but yeah, maybe you can clarify a bit more. But we're going to get to these next questions here first. Question from Greg. If you have a character from an older CC version and save it, can you use it in Headshot to refine it further? That's a good question, Greg. So an older character in CC, Headshot to refine it further. I'm just thinking a scenario where you'd want to do that. So like I mentioned earlier, there was someone who asked earlier about converting your older CC characters to CC3+. You can do that using the option I showed earlier that wasn't there, but it would be there if you had an older CC character. I mean, Headshot 2, when you talk about refining it, Headshot 2 is not really the ideal modeling software. I mean, it does very basic modeling, but it doesn't do anything that Edit Mesh doesn't do. So the Edit Mesh function, the tool that I showed you earlier, you can just do it in the Edit Mesh tool. I mean, you wouldn't really need Headshot 2. Wouldn't really be of much use. You don't need it to change to a extended profile. So yeah, I don't think it would be of much use, Greg. I can't think of a scenario where it would. But good question though. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think it would be much use. A question from D. Can I still do all of this if I didn't upgrade from Headshot 1 to 2? I'm still waiting on the fight scene tutorial. Yeah. I think that fight scene tutorial that everyone's been asking about is probably going to be when we actually have mocap suits or something like that, since we're really focusing on the motion capture stuff. Maybe we'll have Inuk and I and Rococo suits or accent suits or something. We'll be duking it out and cleaning up the motion capture. But yeah, I'd love to do one. It's just not in the cards right now. I have limited feedback as to what webinars are done, just based on what new features are released and everything. So it's been a busy release schedule for new features in 2023 here. But to address your first question there, D, if I didn't upgrade from 1 to 2, so unfortunately, version 2, you do need that to do the mesh workflow that I showed. So the image workflow, you don't need you don't need version 2, but the mesh workflows that I showed you, the troll character and the older character, you do need headshot 2. And I know there's been people who are like, oh, why don't we get the update for free? It's because we actually have a lot of developers that worked very hard on this for months on end. So we do have to recoup some of that cost. So I know if you have headshot 1, there is a super good upgrade price to version 2. Just log into your account in the software store. And when you log into the account, add it to your cart, you'll see the special upgrade price on that. So unfortunately, you do need to purchase 2 separately though. But it's just like, once you have it for life. Headshot 3 would come out maybe in 4 more years. So it's not a very huge price to pay for all the capabilities of it, in my opinion. But okay, we'll go to the next question anyways from Cheyenne. Does exporting to Omniverse now support wrinkles? Oh man, does it? Yes, I believe it does, because when you export the all the texture maps from character creator or iClone, it'll bake those maps. And I think the wrinkle stuff is baked as well. Yeah, I'm going to say yes for now. I haven't tried it myself, but yeah, I believe it is, Cheyenne. So take that as a tentative answer, but I'm pretty sure it does export, because it exports to Unreal. So anything Unreal, we try and keep it consistent with Omniverse. So I've recently been working mostly with Unreal and Blender myself, which both support the wrinkles, and I'm assuming Omniverse does. I've never paid attention to it though, but I'm sure it does. And if it doesn't, you can send me a strongly worded email. Say, hey man, what's the deal? Anyways, from a question from Jonathan here. Okay, we got another 5 minutes or so. When I use headshot to generate a face, then change the skin as you showed in the webinar, my character's face actually changes. Am I doing something wrong? I'm not sure why the face would change. Now, there are a number of different skin presets to be aware of. Some of them are only normal maps, and others are diffuse maps and normal maps. So let's get out of accurate here. We don't need this right now. When you're applying content, just be aware of the different categories. Okay, so under skin, you twirl that down, there's overall. So if we go into items under overall, you'll see overall basically includes the diffuse and normal maps. Okay, so this if I apply this female one, for example, it will replace the diffuse and the normal maps for this character's body. Okay, so that's the overall. The next one is full skin. Full skin will only replace the normal. So for example, if I just double clicked on this full skin, it says, okay, so I'm just going to bake this stuff. No worries. Do you want to keep them on? Yeah, okay. I think I did some adjustment in SkinGen. But you'll see this will look really weird because it'll have the same diffuse texture and the same body morph shape, but the normal map will be completely different. So it'll keep the color and everything, but it'll be like a fat body normal map instead of a muscular body. So it looks okay. A lot of this stuff was baked into the diffuse map, but if we go into modify materials, let's make sure our character is selected. Yep. Make sure his body is selected. Oh, yeah, it's not baked yet. So you have to bake skin color to diffuse map right here and all that stuff. Yeah, so I can't really show you the effect yet, but if I control Z it, you'll notice that it'll become different. Okay, so obviously the small details on the body were different. If you noticed that, I'm not sure if you did notice that, but yeah, it was a lot smoother. You can see with this character, the normal map is much more kind of orc-like. Skin is very rough. Okay, with the other one, it was very smooth. Okay, so that's the normal map right there. What was the original question again here? Yeah, okay, so I was going through the different types here. So there's skin base. So skin base, this is only the diffuse map, okay? So this one applies, it's only just applying the diffuse map, right? The skin color, right? The normal will remain the same. So if you want to keep this, normal skin texture, it looks really kind of rough, and you want the skin color to change, you can use any one of these defaults. That's why there's like, black woman, like a black dude over here. This guy's kind of pale. All these different ones. This one has age spots and whatnot. This one has kind of like ribs showing. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Just be aware of the difference between all of these different skin types, skin presets. Okay. Okay. Anonymous attendee asks, is there a certificate for this course? I mean, not for the webinar, but we do have like Reallusion trainer certificates. If you want to become a certified Reallusion trainer, you can go to our Reallusion courses, not Reallusion courses. Used to be reallusioneducation.com. It's called Global Training Center now. That's right. I should know that was part of creating it. Right here. Global Training Educational Licensing. Just check out this page right here. You can get certificates for down here, multi-seat for individual licenses. This is mostly for the educational discount, which I should mention as well. If you're a student teacher, you get discounts, educational discounts. The Academic Alliance certified trainers up here is where you want to go. All right. All right, let's go to the next one here. Okay, Walter asks again, so for the Reallusion animals, can they accept all kinds of mocap? Unfortunately, there's limitations between quadrupeds and bipeds. So no, unfortunately not, Walter. Okay, we got a few more questions to answer here. Ibis asks, is there a retargeter available for the extended profiles to use in UE? Only the extended profile traditional works in UE. No, so Ibis, I think I'm 90% sure the extended profile works in UE now with the latest version. So again, just make sure that you're updated to the latest version. I know for a fact the extended profile works in that. So yeah, so it's like a profile file. Yeah, you have to use extended. I'd have to go into more detail with you on that because I'm not sure the issue you're having. But yeah, I know for sure the latest versions have the extended profile. I think the extended profile has been there since like version 4.9 or 5. So yeah, hopefully you can figure that out. Just synchronize the versions. Question from Jonathan. I'm having a terrible time fitting clothes onto my characters. I have clothes that I've purchased. Yeah, there's a whole nother topic really, Jonathan, for fitting clothes onto your characters. There are tutorials on that. They would be in the character creator section of the Reallusion courses page. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can go into there that I don't have time to go in for here, unfortunately. But yeah, clothing fitting can be tricky, especially for characters with really whacked out dimensions or proportions rather, not dimensions. Okay, question from Rahim. Will Reallusion eventually release face control that works with Motion Director? Yeah, that's in the works right now. Hopefully you've mentioned here you use an Xbox controller. And hopefully you've seen our new tutorial on how to use your Xbox controller with Motion Director, which is awesome. I mean, Motion Director, it's a tool with a lot of potential, in my opinion. You can use it to do really quick previs stuff. You can actually do it to move your camera as well. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Unfortunately, just not the face right now. But there is all sorts of other stuff you can do with Motion Director. You can control your camera, control all sorts of stuff on your character. And yeah, that's a whole nother topic though. So thanks for the question though, Raheem. With the face, not yet. Okay, so Carl, you mentioned here, I want to make my characters I made in CC4 only have 3 fingers. Then you'll have to use a modeling software to cut the fingers off, do some surgery on your 3D models. You can, of course, make the mesh invisible for the fingers on Character Creator, but you can't cover up where the holes. So it'll just look like there's 2 hollow holes where your other 2 fingers are. So you have to use a modeling software for that. Blenders would be useful for that. Blender's the free option, obviously. Okay. Chris asks, can you continuously refine the model during production and update? Yeah, Chris, definitely you can. And again, for those of you who are seriously into modeling, I would recommend using the ZBrush GoZ workflow. You can also use Blender, the free option as well. ZBrush is the more refined pipeline. Blender requires, a couple more clicks, really. ZBrush is a single click. There's a GoZ click, and just click it and it brings your character in, but Blender can also be used. You can easily refine back and forth, just save it, re-import it. But GoZ doesn't require the saving and re-importing. It just click GoZ again, it just updates it live. So that's why if you're a modeler, you know ZBrush, recommend using that workflow. David asked a good question here. Will the CC4 skeleton be updated to the UE5 version? So 5 bones versus the current 3. There's no plans on that right now. There's no kind of consensus on whether or not we should harmonize with the UE4 default model. But also, of course, there's always retargeting. So David, the auto setup does the retargeting automatically, and you can do the retargeting within Unreal as well for different types of models. That's a whole nother can of worms though, David, that I'm not going to go into right now. I don't even have Unreal open, and we know how long Unreal takes to open sometimes. But question from Michael: can I render using standard items in Omniverse? Yeah, absolutely. There's again, Michael, I mentioned the Omniverse tutorials a bit earlier. Check those out. Those are in the pipeline section of our tutorial, our reusing courses page. So anything Omniverse can be found there. And that's it. Question, I guess a comment from John. Thanks for some great information. Thanks for being here, John. It's awesome to have you guys here. All right, so yeah, we're about 2 hours and 15 minutes then. I think we'll just end it off there. I really, since there's no more questions here, I don't really want to answer anymore at this point. But thanks so much, everyone, for being with us for this webinar today. Really hope you learned a lot. Headshot 2 is an excellent tool. It really works well, especially the new mesh workflow. Hopefully you learned a little bit about how to bring in unconventional head meshes in addition to standard type head meshes. Hopefully you guys found that useful. Thanks so much for being here. I know that some of you, it's very late over in Europe and other places, like middle of the night in India, for example. But thanks everyone for being with us. And don't forget to fill out that survey. We're going to send out that survey via email. And you can always watch this and review the video at a later date as well. But yeah, I think that's about it. So I want to thank everyone again for being here today. Hopefully you can learn something from this, and check out our reusing courses page for more detailed tutorials. But yeah, I think we'll say adios and good evening here from Western Canada. And we hope to see you guys in the webinars in the future. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.